The spirit of Libra and the soul of Libra are not the same. Which one do you possess? You are not a Libra, you are two, and they live inside you, fighting, negotiating, alternating control. One is visible, the other is secret. One performs, the other feels. One wants approval, the other wants truth. And most of your life, you didn't even know there were two of you. You thought this constant tension, this feeling of being divided, this weariness of never being completely yourself was normal. It was part of being a Libra. But it's not. It's you living with spirit when you should be living with soul. And what's the difference between the two? Difference is everything. The spirit of Libra is what the world sees. Diplomatic, charming, a person everyone adores because they never create problems, always finding common ground, making everyone feel comfortable, bringing harmony where there is chaos. And it seems beautiful, it seems evolved, it seems like who you should be. But it comes at a cost you pay in silence, in exhaustion, in loss of yourself. The soul of Libra is what you hide. It's a warrior disguised as a peacemaker. It's someone who knows exactly what they want but has learned not to say it, who has strong opinions but dilutes them so as not to offend, who feels injustice viscerally but smiles politely, who could overturn the table but chooses to balance it, not out of weakness, out of strategy, out of a power that the world doesn't recognize as power. And you, which one are you experiencing? If you are a spirit without a soul, you are exhausted. You are always mediating, always giving in, always being reasonable while others are selfish. And you don't understand why this kills you inside, why you feel anger that you can't express, why you fantasize about simply exploding and sending everything to hell. Because a spirit without a soul is performance without essence. It's doing what you must without feeling what it is. If you are a soul without a spirit, you are alone. Because you stop trying to please, and the world doesn't know what to do with a Libra that doesn't please. You speak the truth, you set boundaries, you choose authenticity over harmony, and people distance themselves because they wanted the diplomatic version, the version that yields, the version that makes them feel good, and you offered the real version, and real scares people. But what if you are both? What if you have integrated spirit and soul? You are unstoppable. Because you possess diplomacy without weakness, you have peace without submission, you have balance without losing yourself. You know when to harmonize and when to confront, when to yield and when to stand firm, when to smile politely and when to look someone in the eye and say no. And that is complete Libra. That is what you were made to be. But let me show you a concrete difference. In real-life situations, someone asks you for a favor you don't want to do. The spirit says yes with a smile and then feels resentment. The soul says no without explanation and feels guilty. Spirit and soul together say, "I can't this time," with gentle firmness, and move on without guilt or resentment, because it wasn't aggressive, but it wasn't weak either. Someone criticizes you unfairly. The spirit accepts and internalizes it because maintaining peace is more important than defending the truth. The soul explodes and destroys the relationship because truth is more important than the relationship. Spirit and soul together. Listen, evaluate whether the criticism has merit and respond proportionally, correcting if necessary, ignoring if not. Without drama, without submission. You want something intensely. The spirit hides desire to appear detached and cool. The soul demands and pushes people away intensely. Spirit and soul together express desire clearly while remaining open to not getting it. Vulnerability without desperation. Clarity without control. And do you see the pattern? Spirit alone sacrifices you for the world. Soul alone sacrifices the world for you. Together you sacrifice no one. You simply are. Honest, balanced, strong. And how do you know which one you're living? Let me give you a test, an honest test. When you're with other people, do you feel more or less like yourself? Spirit feels more like yourself because it performs well in front of an audience. Soul feels less like yourself because it needs to suppress truth. Integrated feels the same because it doesn't change based on who's watching. When you make a decision, how long does it take? The spirit takes forever because it consults everyone, weighs all opinions, tries to please everyone. The soul decides quickly because it knows what it wants and doesn't consider others. The integrated mind considers others but decides based on its own center. Quick but not impulsive. When you say no, how do you feel afterward? Spirit feels terribly guilty and calls back to change it to yes. Soul feels justifiably proud and inflexible. Integrated feels neutral because it wasn't about rejecting the person, it was about protecting one's own space. When someone is wrong and you know it, what do? The spirit lets it pass to maintain harmony and simmers internally. The soul corrects publicly and creates unnecessary tension. The integrated person chooses battles, corrects when it matters, lets go when it doesn't. And now let's go deeper, because this isn't just about behavior, it's about identity. The spirit of Libra learned early on that love is conditional, that you are loved when you are agreeable, when you don't create problems, when you make others happy, and you became a master at it. You read environments, you adjust your personality, you give people the version of you they want, and it works. You are popular, loved, needed, but also empty, because nobody really knows you. And worse, you don't know yourself, because you've spent so much time being what others need that you've forgotten who you are. The Libra soul learned early on that the world is unfair, that people are selfish, that if you don't protect yourself you will be consumed. So you built walls, you stopped giving in, you prioritized yourself above all else. And it worked. You maintain your integrity, you are not used, you don't get lost, but you are also alone, because no one can get in, and you confuse loneliness with strength, isolation with protection, and both are wrong, or rather both are incomplete, because the truth is, you don't have to choose between being loved and being yourself. You don't have to choose between connection and integrity. You don't have to choose between peace and truth. You can have them all, but only if you integrate, only if you stop living in extremes. Integration doesn't happen by thinking, it happens by deciding moment by moment who you're going to be in this specific interaction. And decision isn't about spirit or soul, it's about how much of each, it's about dosage, it's about dynamic balance, work meeting where honest feedback is needed, more soul, less spirit, diplomatic truth, but truth nonetheless, dinner with family where tensions are already high, more spirit, less soul, temporary peace to preserve the relationship, confrontation with partner about something fundamental, 50-50, loving firmness, gentle truth, and you practice this every day in small interactions. You stop before responding and ask, what does the situation need? And you give it, not what is easiest, not what makes you most comfortable, but what the situation truly needs. And at first it's strange, because you're used to the norm. The spirit always yields, the soul never yields, and suddenly you're yielding here, strengthening there, and it seems inconsistent. But it's not, it's contextual, it's wise, it's mature, and it's about recognizing when you're out of balance, when you've fallen completely in spirit or completely in soul. If you are alone in spirit, you will notice inexplicable exhaustion, repressed anger that explodes at strange moments, constant fantasy of disappearing, feeling like you're always performing, fear of being alone because alone you don't know who you are, resentment towards people you helped, emptiness even when surrounded by people. If you are alone in spirit, you will notice increasing loneliness, excessive pride in not needing anyone, constant criticism of others for being weak or fake, rigidity in your positions, difficulty committing, a feeling that no one understands you, security that feels more like a prison. And when you notice, you don't judge yourself, you don't blame yourself for being unbalanced, you simply acknowledge it, and you begin the correction, small, gradual. If it's too much spirit, you practice one no a day, a small boundary, a gentle truth. If it's too much soul, you practice one concession a day, a gesture of harmony, a bridge extended. And there are specific moments in Libra's life where this integration becomes urgent, not optional. First, when you lose someone important because you were too spiritual, because you gave in so much that the person stopped respecting you, or because you were so soulful that the person could no longer reach you. And it hurts. and you realize extremes cost relationships. Second, when you realize you're living someone else's life, a job you chose to please your parents, a relationship you maintained to appear stable, a city you live in because it was convenient for others, and you wake up one day and think, none of this is mine, and the terror of this realization forces you to integrate, to find what is truly yours. Third, when you finally meet someone who is whole, who has peace without weakness, truth without cruelty, and you see living possibility, and you want that, you want to be that, and you begin the journey. And about this path, let me be honest, it's not quick, it's not easy, because you're undoing lifelong patterns. You're relearning who you are without performance or defense. You're discovering what you truly want when you're not trying to please or prove a point. And the process has stages. First, you recognize the division. You see that spirit and soul exist separately. Second, you observe which one dominates in different contexts. When are you more spirit? When more soul? Third, you experiment. You consciously bring more soul where there has always been spirit, more spirit where there has always been soul, and you notice the result. Fourth, you fail. A lot. You put too much soul into a situation that needed spirit and create harm. You put too much spirit into a situation that needed soul and betray yourself. And you learn. You calibrate. Fifth, you start to get it right. Not always, but more often. You feel when the dose is right, when you are being authentic and connected, firm and gentle, true and diplomatic. And sixth, you realize you're no longer thinking about it. You're simply being. Spirit and soul are no longer two forces fighting. They are two colors blending into a unique tone that is only yours. And this tone changes from situation to situation but always comes from the same place, the integrated center. And it's about how this changes relationships. Because Libra is a sign of relationships. And spirit versus soul versus integration manifests intensely here. The spirit of Libra attracts people who need a caregiver, who want someone who always gives in, who always understands, who never demands, and you attract that, and you hate that, but you also need that, because you don't know how to be loved without being useful. A Libra's soul attracts no one, or only other isolated individuals, people who also have walls, who also protect themselves, and you orbit distant, respectful, never truly touching, and you call that mature love, but it's just shared fear. Integrated Libra attracts healthy people, people who want a real partnership, people who don't need a caregiver or a fortress, people who want someone who is honest about their needs and boundaries, someone who can give and receive, someone who can be strong and vulnerable, and the relationship is different, not perfect, but real, deeply real. And if you're in a relationship right now, look at your partner. What version of you do they know? If they only know your spirit, they don't know you, and you'll feel alone even when you're together. If they only know your soul, they have access but not intimacy, and you'll feel safe but not loved. But what if you show both? What if you're diplomatic when it suits you and firm when you need to be? What if you yield on small things and stand firm on big things? They'll get to know you, really. And that's scary, because now they might reject you not for your mask but for who you are. But they might also love you, not for your performance but for your essence. What if they reject you when you integrate? What if they only wanted a consistently agreeable spirit or only a consistently strong soul? You have the answer. They didn't want you. They wanted function. And you can let go with clarity instead of confusion. And here's a truth about Libra that nobody talks about. You were made to lead, not in the traditional sense of control or command, but in the sense of modeling balance in a world of extremes, of showing that you can be strong without being cruel, gentle without being weak, firm without being rigid, flexible without being unstable. And when you integrate spirit and soul, you become that. You become a living example, and people feel it. They feel that you have something they want, peace that doesn't come from avoidance, strength that doesn't come from domination, and they gravitate towards you. They want to learn. They want to understand how you do it. And you teach, not by preaching, but by being the kind of person who can disagree without destroying relationships, who can say no without creating enemies, who can be truthful without being brutal. and slowly you change the atmosphere where you are. You bring a different tone, a different possibility. And about fear, because integration brings a specific kind of fear. The spirit is afraid of being rejected, so it performs. The soul is afraid of being controlled, so it isolates itself. And the integrated are afraid of being seen, truly seen, because they no longer have masks, they no longer have defenses. It's just you, vulnerable, real, and the world may like it or not, and you no longer have control over that, and you have to make peace with that fear. You have to decide that being seen and possibly rejected is better than being hidden and possibly accepted, because acceptance behind a mask doesn't nourish, it doesn't satisfy, it only creates more emptiness. So you breathe, you show, you take risks, and some leave. They leave because you are no longer what they needed, and you let them go, sadly but without betraying yourself. And some stay. They stay because you are what they wanted but didn't know how to ask for. And you receive, with gratitude but without dependence. And life becomes different, fewer in quantity, greater in quality, fewer people, but more real, less activity but more meaning, less approval but more peace. And you don't go back. You don't go back to a pure spirit or a pure soul, because you remember now. You remember what it was like to live divided, and you never want that again. So which one do you possess? Spirit or soul? The truth is you have both. You always have. The question isn't which one you possess, it's which one you nurture, which one you acknowledge, which one you integrate. And if you've spent your whole life just being a pleasant spirit, your soul is waiting for you to have the courage to be strong. And if you've spent your life just being an isolated soul, your spirit is waiting for you to have the courage to connect. And what happens when you allow both? When you stop choosing between being loved and being real? You discover a third option, to be loved for being real. And that's worth every uncomfortable moment, every lost relationship, every mask left behind. Because on the other side there's you, whole, integrated, free. Libra, you weren't born to choose. You were born to balance, not just outwardly but inwardly. And inner balance between spirit and soul. That's the foundation of everything, of healthy relationships, of wise decisions, of an authentic life, of true peace. So stop fighting, stop choosing, and start integrating. Spirit and soul, diplomacy and truth, connection and integrity. Because you are not half, you are whole, and whole is what you were always meant to be.